Thanks a lot for coming in.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Something about this community appeals to you?
This is a wonderful place to live.
For Kelowna Now, this is Camp Mulgat. And we're joined by Jennifer Grant, a business etiquette coach and consultant. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
So, one of the things that you remind people is that so much judgment takes place in the first few seconds when you meet somebody. So I won't ask how well I did when we met, but in this time when some people are starting to think that, hey, maybe I want to skip the handshake. This is my core question to you. How do you go about doing that? If you want to not shake hands, how do you do that without blowing the whole transition from not knowing somebody to making a business contact?
That's a great question, Kent. So these days, coronavirus is changing how the world says hello. And in many countries with greater population, things such as the hug, the handshake, the nose to nose, the cheek to cheek, that's all rapidly changing, and people are preferring to do things like it could be, sounds funny, but it could be an elbow bump, it could be the hand over the heart with a nod, it could be a namaste greeting, but there's several countries in Europe now that are formally dispensing with the original customs of how they would say hello. So I think people are taking preventative measures. I know in Canada, the outbreak is in smaller numbers in comparison to the rest of the world, but we should still be exercising every precaution and preventative measures for our health. So your question about how can we do that without offending someone?
Right.
So handshakes are important. I'll say that for years and years, people will judge you on your handshake as to whether you're competent and whether they want to do business with you. And sometimes that handshake can be the outcome of either having business or not. So to let someone know that you prefer not to shake hands, you should always be polite and courteous, and you should be honest as well. You should say, if it were you and I that were meeting and you extended your hand, I would simply say, Kent, it's so nice to meet you. I'd prefer not to shake hands. I'm observing all the protocol to be safe when it comes to coronavirus, and I hope that's all right with you.
Right. What if I was to say something like, with all that's going on, I'm avoiding handshakes right now, but I hope that's okay. Would something like that?
That would be perfect. Yes, that would be absolutely great.
But I can imagine certain people are now stiffening up, and they might not.
They could become defensive. They could tell you that you're overreacting, and I think you just take the high road on that. You say, yes, maybe that's the case, but I hope you'll understand this is just my personal preference at this time.
And these questions are not outlandish, because like you're saying, there's parts of the world and people who do business with other countries will be encountering them, places where the handshake is being dispensed with at this time.
Yes, I think, there's particularly Asia and China, and I think we all thought it was, we'd seen that on the news where people were doing a toe tap.
The toe tap.
They're, these countries that have been the hardest hit are responding and reacting very quickly, and they should.
And that toe tap one that I saw, that's no joke. That is starting to be the way certain people are.
Yes, it could be. I can't recall if it was younger people that were doing it, but people will become very inventive and creative, I think, in finding other ways to do a greeting that's respectful, that's kind and courteous and professional. So yes, it could change the landscape for sure for the years to come.
So even if someone is clinging to the handshake, so to speak, they very well might encounter someone who isn't.
Yes.
So what's the best way to handle that? Obviously with grace.
Yes, with grace, politeness, a smile, be kind.
But it's
But
going.
don't compromise what your convictions are. And sometimes that's hard. You can
Right.
tell if somebody really wants to shake your hand. So you just back away for a moment, tell them why, follow it with a smile.
Right. But as a person who is very focused on what the kind of rules and expectations are in terms of business contacts, what I'm hearing from you is it's not going to disappear quickly, the expectation of a handshake.
It's not going to disappear quickly. It's probably going to take years, in fact, for that to happen. It's just we've been so ingrained for such a long time that the handshake is the appropriate way to acknowledge someone, respect someone, indicate that we want to do business with them, we want to grow the relationship. So it's going to take some time.
Right. I know you're not a social scientist per se. Do you think it will? Do you think it will?
I think we've got a ways to go yet to see what happens, and it's just such a complex situation right now around the world, but I think it does have definitely the possibility that things will change in that regard, like so many other things have changed in our lifetime of what used to be protocol or proper. Things are changing around that. So
Right.
yeah,
Terrific.
I
All
can
right.
see it changing.
Thank you so much for coming in.
You're
Hey,
welcome.
let's say goodbye with an
Let's
elbow
say
bump.
goodbye,
Jennifer Grant.
and then
Thanks very much.
no, my pleasure.
And thank you for watching Kelowna Now.